Yes, hello, this is MediaMystic, and this is Benjamin Suchman of Shockwind Films, and this is our second podcast video, following the first one where we've discussed films released in the summer, and now we are discussing various different topics today concerning, well, the broader media landscape, but we're going to do
Just remember that I have autism and that it's going to be hard to simplify and...
Yes, that's good to know, Ben.
Yeah.
So for this podcast, yes, we're going to be talking about various different subject matters. We're going to be talking about, well, politics and media, especially under the Trump administration, and as well as topics such as Sam Neill's death, which has been one of the biggest celebrity passing aways, let's put it that way, of July. And then the third topic we're going to delve into is the short film that me and Ben are planning to do. So without further ado, let's start.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you something about what do you think about the current polarization, not just in politics, but also in media, especially with Trump, who seems to benefit from this, taking full leverage.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare just desperately waiting impatiently to end.
Yeah, and the thing too is that, well, he's very, Trump is very, good at using rhetoric in order to appeal to what his followers want to hear, but also attacking people that seem to have legitimate critiques, legitimate grievances on how he's approaching the issues of what is going on in this country. And I also feel like, and I've written notes here too, that the division between mainstream entertainment, traditional news media, and fragmented audiences have been growing for decades already due to economic, technological, and cultural shifts. However, this political strategies and rhetoric transform those existing cracks into a deep, highly visible polarization. So yeah, it's something that has already been going on, because before Trump came into office, people were already frustrated about inequality, already were frustrated about media representations, or about how the disconnect between what is being reported and what is actually shown on the ground was growing, because people were starting to see that certain news stories were covering certain events from a different angle, but not from another angle, right? And that it seems to be putting the blame on
the wrong people.
Yeah, on the wrong people, rather than examining the underlying causes of it, right? And that's when people started to notice that the media is exaggerating a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, and not even telling the actual truth, lack thereof, or or even if there's any truth to it. And even if there's people who use lies as sources to repeat them, just so other people could say it, when it just becomes so tiresome and annoying.
Well, the other thing too is, I was going to mention this too, is that people have always been divided over
something.
Yeah, political representation on screen, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, it seems like in the last 10 years, when Trump finally came into office, people went on board online to politicize everything. Because remember that Twitter was already rising.
Even though everything was always political.
Online discourse was already conflating everything before it through a political lens of examining, wait, whose biases is this representing? Who's it leaving out? And whose stories are we watching?
When really everything that has ever been made has always had a political leaning, and has always been, I guess, left. There's no far right, ideology in any sort of entertainment.
Oh, sorry.
Just people need to understand. If you think about it, a lot of those people, they fail to realize that it's not a new thing that movies and TV and all that stuff have been leading left. It's just how reality is, and it's just how movies and TV have always been before they were even born.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, and it gets me to this section right here, where Trump, you know how he uses the enemy of the people, right? He believes that the media is the enemy of the people, right? And he goes as far as calling journalists or other news reporters names, right? And that's to show that he's trying to speak for the common person, the common people.
Well, he's actually doing it wrong.
Okay, you believe he's doing it wrong? Well,
yeah.
Let's keep it let's keep it somewhere in the middle, because I'm just reporting
Because
on
not all common people are like
on
that.
what he does, what he claims to believe, or what he claims to know, not whether it's actually factual.
Yeah.
But all we know is that yes, he has called news reporters and journalists things. He's tried to suppress their
A lot of
dissent.
insulting names and a lot of...
Even when they have legitimate critiques of his policies, legitimate critique of how he's leveraging,
Especially those who were supporting
his
him.
leadership. Yeah, especially those on the right wing that were, more concerned with how the system was running, because this was after 2008, right? This was after the foreclosures and the financial recession.
Yeah, the crisis.
Yeah, that's after that, when people started to grieve over, an economic system that was not working for them anymore, especially those of the lower classes and some middle classes too. And that's when they turned to someone like Donald Trump in order to address all these things.
I think it was a big mistake, though.
So I'm going to read this section, right? This note that I took. A primary way this polarization was deepened was through the deliberate erosion of trust in institutional media. The strategy was that he labeled mainstream news outlets as fake news and the enemy of the people, which was a stark binary. A stark binary was created there. So yeah, that's something that I wanted to get at right there. Fake news, right?
That's pretty much what... Well, actually, the mainstream media is actually the opposite of fake news. It's telling the truth. It's just telling the honest truth, and I think Trump just doesn't want to hear any of it.
I disagree, because I think it covers the main event. The main event actually happened, but what I believe media does, is that it twists what the event was and frames it through a sensational lens, because it's trying to tell a story about it. It's trying to tell a narrative.
Yeah, but
Instead
that
of just
narrative
actually
tends to be false.
Yeah, instead of just saying this event happened, this is who was affected, it tends to twist that into a narrative that says, oh, this says something about the people that was affected. It says something about society and how we keep allowing this to happen, right? It's turning it into a story to draw people in, for the attention. Because
the reality is, though,
that's how the media economy works. Whatever gets the most attention.
The reality is that narrative is false. Those narratives that Trump thinks is true are false. He thinks that he can think all he wants. That doesn't mean that we don't have the right to disagree with him. We have to disagree with him because he is a pedophile and he is pretty much someone who cheats. He's pretty much a liar, a pedophile, and a dirty cheater. He is let's face it, I didn't vote for him. I voted for Kamala Harris. And if that disappoints you or shocks you, then I have nothing to say to you. I feel very
for anyone
sorry.
watching this video, if you're left or right, just remember we're talking about the topic at hand. We're not referring to you specifically.
Exactly.
This video is simply about discussing the topic of how Trump's role in politics has changed the way people see media, especially mainstream media and also entertainment media, because we're examining how this has made people turn their eye to see everything through a political lens, right?
Yeah.
So this leads me to the topic right here. This is the impact of all this. Okay, from millions of followers, critical reporting of mainstream news outlets was automatically dismissed as partisan hostility. Conversely, it forced mainstream media into a defensive adversarial posture, which critics have argued have made those outlets appear more partisan than before, which forced a cultural binary during this period where Hollywood and the broader entertainment industry became explicitly political. The industry reaction was that award shows, late night talk shows, and scripted television leaned heavily into anti-Trump commentary and political messaging. The audience reaction as a result was that this shift alienated a massive portion of the consumer base audiences who turned to entertainment for escapism instead of found themselves forced to choose a side, accelerating the exact distrust and alienation within fandoms discussed previously. So that's where people started to see the political messaging there, where, I'm not just watching entertainment, I'm watching a movie or a show or a late night talk show that has a political bias, has a political agenda, and it's trying to persuade me to think like that person or that.
Well,
group.
everything we've always escaped to
And
has
this
always
was
had a political
especially
bias.
the case in 2016 to 2017, where a ton of movies were
Even if they were any good.
Yeah. Actually, no. It started in 2015. 2015 is when it began, because that's when Star Wars, Mad Max, and what's another movie? Ex Machina, I would argue, but that's more sci-fi. When they were labeled as woke cinema because of the fact that they have female characters in it, and that's like, okay.
Even though there's no such thing, even though the term woke has completely lost its meaning, it's just they just use that word as a complete insult for what it's actually not.
Yes, because many movies were being called woke because they were trying to address deep systemic flaws that shows, oh man, power structures are benefiting.
To the point where even established franchises have already
things like racial bias or towards political bias or towards cultural assumptions, right?
Even if established franchises have been doing it since they started, like Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah, many people complain about Star Wars having a female character who's too powerful. That's why they called it woke, or that's why they called it feminist propaganda.
And let's face it, Luke didn't strive to be a god. You know, I mean, he didn't have that kind of ambition. Like he just wanted to, do something good. He just didn't have a specific idea what it was. And I think that's the same with Anakin and, even Rey. Like let's face it, the idea that political themes have been only in recent movies is a lie, because
I didn't claim political division was only in recent times. I'm saying that we're looking at this through the context of today, through the context
exactly.
of how it's been going on in the last 10 years. I didn't say politics in movies is anything new. I didn't say that at all. I always said that
because it's not new.
Yeah, it's not new. You watch films from decades ago, and they are full of political subtext, right?
Yeah, one example is another example is Star Trek. A lot of Star Trek productions in recent years have gotten a lot of flack for just doing exactly what they have always done.
No, I was just checking to see if it was still recording.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, Star Trek has always been pushing diversity and progressiveness from the very beginning. Gene Roddenberry had made a requirement for the Enterprise to have a diverse crew on the bridge in order to send a message of racial and gender equality being achieved in the future. He even mandated that every episode must maintain his philosophical and political views, something that there are people out there, particularly those on YouTube, refuse to acknowledge so as not to clash with the narrative of this stuff only being explored in movies and TV today.
And not to mention that there have been explicitly propaganda films, but it was state propaganda films, right? They were made by the state to glorify a national party or political group.
Yeah,
but that was not for entertainment. It was meant to be political. It was meant to persuade.
Yeah, and that's not what. And that's pretty much, if anything, they're accusing Hollywood they're accusing Hollywood of propaganda when actually when in actuality, it's those users that are making the propaganda themselves. You know?
Yeah.
Hollywood's not like what they think they are. Like, the politicians are the ones making the propaganda themselves, not Hollywood. Hollywood's just doing what they always have been doing. And I think
it's a business at the end
yes,
of the day.
It is a business, and what that these conservatives have been saying, no offense, is false.
Okay. I want to get to this part right here, right? So, about how the division has been incentivized financially, right? This is the notes I took. The polarization was further locked in place because it proved highly profitable for both sides. The media, in this case, with the mainstream news networks and publications, experienced a massive surge in ratings and subscriptions driven by constant coverage of Trump's actions and statements, which is a phenomenon often referred to as the Trump dump. So what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Because it shows that people clicked onto news channels and subscriptions that affirmed what they already believed in, because it was a way for them to channel their frustration politically onto a figure that they believed had the answers, right? And that's something that you see very commonly in populist movements, right? When a society believes it's losing its way, they turn to a powerful figure in their eyes for them to address what was going on. And it's not just limited to the US, it's happening basically in the Western world, right?
Honestly,
in the UK, for example.
Honestly, I feel like the political spectrum has lost its way.
In Western Europe, it's also turning to authoritarian tendencies because people believe that the way society is working in the context of the way Western society is working right now is not how people want it to be run.
We will not tolerate it.
And they believe that things like globalization or immigration or technology, as well as the economic inequality, is shaping all this, and that's why people want to stand up, which is something that I find very interesting because it shows that people do care about how society is run, but how they're doing it is very questionable, if you ask me, because they're going to go through the most violent means just to reclaim what they believe was lost. But even though what they believe was lost was already run on the assumption that things were working perfectly fine, even though it was hiding very deep flaws, like I already mentioned. Because you know how Trump supporters often point to the 1950s as like the golden age?
It's not.
Following the post-war economic boom, where you had the suburban expansion, you had the GI bills passed around that made people afford housing, or you had the interstate, introducing all that stuff. That's what it looked like. That's what the image looked like when it was being projected on the mainstream news and mainstream entertainment, right? This is what it looked like. It's not really that magical. This was only experienced by people who already had those privileges, in particular white people who already benefited from it, especially some of World War II veterans. But keep in mind, it's some, not everybody. I'm not saying everybody was like that. But for everybody else who didn't benefit from this narrative, you could tell that non-white people were excluded. You could tell that not everybody got a house, and that you could tell that there was already very, bad things going on systemically that showed people were being left out, and we know who it was, right? We know it was the minority groups like African Americans or Hispanics or indigenous people or working class people
or women,
and women in some cases too, because of the whole rigid gender roles.
Children.
That that they were expected to conform to, and that's what led to the civil rights movement. That's what led to the counterculture movements of the following decade. That showed that this system is working for someone, but not for us. And that's how the initial trust that they had, when people had higher trust in government, higher trust in the economic growth that was going on, it dropped because we had the Richard Nixon scandal, right, of Watergate, and then we had Vietnam. And that's when it was broadcasted for the first time on TV that a war was going on. Wars were going on without people noticing. That showed that, oh man, this is only beginning, right? Because the end of World War II was not a peaceful transition. It was already still wars going on, like the Russian Civil War or the Korean War.
Yeah.
And what else? The Cold War brewing on between the U.S. and USSR. When there were competing ideologies at play there, capitalism and communism. It's not as binary as that, of course. We now know that the U.S. had some of that conformist, what is it called? Communist tendencies when it projected an image that, we are not like the USSR. We are a more free market, enterprising society that rewards people who've worked hard or who fought for us. And guess what? It was a very rigid image that showed this benefits some people, but it did not benefit everybody, which is why it acted like soft propaganda. When you look at a lot of 1950s footage that shows people, were happily smiling at each other in the front lawns in the suburbs, that image was curated. Let's just say it.
Yeah.
And that's not new. That also, even before this, there were newspapers and radios that were curating reality to a certain image. And even today, people curate reality through social media to show that, I'm doing perfectly fine on social media. I have things that you wish you had. But we don't know what's actually going on underneath that shows people's lives look different when the camera turns off, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people now are interpreting it through when we see that narrative of the suburban expansion and the economic growth and the, what else? The 1950s golden age was all constructed to serve a purpose, and that purpose was to show the USSR that we're not embracing communism. There was the Red Scare, right? The Red Scare phenomenon that was going on in the 50s that showed it that we don't want to embrace communism. And guess what? The U.S. embraced a soft version of it. It was just disguised very well, in my eyes. I don't know if you agree with that. I don't know if you disagree with that, but that's just how I see it, especially when you examine the history that excluded everybody else who didn't benefit from the white picket fence suburban family, right?
Yeah.
It's not bad having a family. It's not bad having a house. It's not bad to own property. It's just that the narrative around it is what makes people highly questionable about it now.
Yeah.
Especially when housing affordability is inaccessible. People feel like they cannot get a home anymore. People feel like the system is designed in such a way where having that is impossible, and that's why people are seeking alternate paths. I don't always agree with those alternate paths, but it's something that really shows the economy really is really broken, right?
Yeah.
And people are not just complaining about housing because it's expensive. They're really questioning about that narrative that they were raised by. In particular, people who were coming of age during the 2000s, right, in the 2008 recession, when the foreclosures were happening, and that's where people that were ready to enter the job market, ready to launch into the real world, felt that rupture, felt that pause right there when they couldn't get a job, they lost homes, or they were laid off by the companies, or when they had to come back to their parents with that sort of attitude that showed, it did not work for me. I did everything that my parents told me to do, to work hard, to study, and that didn't work for me. And that's what led to this moment that we see now, especially when people have turned to Donald Trump to fix that. But the thing is that this is a grievance that I believe has happened because it's a way to make up for what did not work, right? And it's funny to me because Donald Trump is trying to fix America, trying to put America first using 1950s logic.
Yeah, but that doesn't work.
Even though we're now in the 21st century.
That cure is just as bad as the disease.
Yeah, and it's been almost a century since the mid 20th century, right? And we have since changed a lot of society, and how are we expected
for better, even.
Yeah, so you can say for better, you can say for worse. I think it's both, right? I see it both ways. In many areas it's improved, in many areas it got worse. But what we're trying to say is that it's changed, right?
It's
changed.
Normal to change.
Yeah, it's changed a lot, but Trump is just like obsessed with that kind of rhetoric to the point where he believes, we're going to make America great again. And yet his version of America is trying to undo what we've done in the last 70 years, right? Because in the last 70 years, think about what we've done, right? We've ended segregation in the South.
That was good.
Yeah, we did bring the troops back from Vietnam. It did see expansion in globalized, culture and media that, again, some of it was good, some of it is not good. That shows that America is trying to be more connected with the rest of the world, right? And we're trying to accept other perspectives, right? Let media showcase multiple points of view, not just one point of view, right? That's why in the movie industry, in the film industry, there are so many different movies that highlight different perspectives, which is good because that shows a society is willing to tolerate another perspective, right? And Trump is like, no, we're gonna undo all that because it's the enemy of the people. That's what he believes. And the thing is that, yeah, it's not perfect, but at least it's trying to address the wrongdoings of the United States. Because if you love the United States of America, you love your country, chances are you also have to question it. You also have to criticize aspects of it, right? You can't just blindly go in and be a patriot that says, I love my country no matter what, and overlook what doesn't work about it, right? Because healthy patriotism recognizes, I love my country, but I also recognize there's areas to improve on it. And to be fair, not everybody who came of age during the post-war boom was a fanatic that thinks that, that version of America, I want it back. This version of America that we live in is completely against what I believe. Because I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who are willing to see that America is a changing nation, right? It's always evolving.
Just those basement dwellers who miss being kids when...
But at the same time, I also don't agree with the left people that believe America should just, be progressive, right? Because I do believe that not every progressive movement is beneficiary. Not all.
It's just the problematic elements that should be phased away.
Because left people are also trying to embrace that populist movement of, oh no, America is this, and this is how it's always been. The right people are just too blind by nationalism and patriotism and nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
Because both sides, if you really notice it, are trying to impose their version of America and using media like whether news or in films that tries to show, which version of America are we really looking at, right? Because right-wing media tends to lean more towards tradition, things like...
And really that's not how...
Tradition,
when really those are bad traditions. When really we should be
trying to keep things relatively stable, but the thing is that they tend to only look at one path and think, or only look at one perspective and think that's universal. That's everybody, when not everybody's experiencing that narrative, right? And then the left is trying to show multiple paths, but it's not really, it's almost like it's in your face, right? Instead of showing it organically, right? Showing it organically that, other perspectives are valid too. We're not trying to force you to think, believe, or act exactly like us, but we encourage you to respect that we exist too, right? And that's why I believe that in 2016, 2017, we had those heavy debates with films that came out in that time period that were discussing things like representation or race or class or what else? Or what's another one? Or how politics is trying to drive a point of what do we want this country to be under the leadership of Donald Trump, right?
But not.
Especially after the country has already seen things like 9/11, the recession, and the rise of the internet, where the country's changing faster than our institutions can catch up to them. And that's why people are so disillusioned by media, disillusioned by the government, disillusioned by religion, they're disillusioned about so many things, which is why people now they want to identify as something other than just a patriotic person, other than an American, other than their political identity, right? Whenever politics is put aside for a moment, right? I find that interesting. I'm not trying to endorse any view here. I'm just examining like what works, what doesn't work, and why I feel like both perspectives have a point. I think there's legitimate grievances to be found with the right, with how they believe things are, but I don't agree with how they want it to be, right? I don't believe that things should only be that way because it worked for them. Because, like I said, man, we're trying to learn from things like segregation, from the displacement of native populations, or how we treat people who are of different backgrounds, immigration, all that stuff. Because this country has always been an immigrant nation. It's always welcomed people from other countries. When the immigrations came over, right? This was after the European colonization. We're like, okay, hey, we made this country, we made this land, based on an idea, based on what we could achieve by, reinventing the country into something of a democracy and something of a government that is governed by the people. But at the end of the day, it came at a cost. We just have to accept that this country has always been, an uneven, violent, and just a very confused nation that does not know where it's heading towards next. And that's something that I felt like bringing up because it's a topic that just really interests me, right? Here's the part that I want to touch on with the notes I've written. The alternative ecosystem was that simultaneously, right-wing media outlets, podcasts, and independent commenters saw explosive growth by positioning themselves as the only truthful alternative to the mainstream press. Ultimately, while the structural kindling for a polarized media ecosystem was already stacked, his approach, Donald Trump's approach, acted as a massive catalyst that permanently altered how the public consumes, trusts, and interacts with both news and entertainment. If we could look closer at the shift to see if we can explore the following: how the Trump dump financially impacted major news outlets, or networks rather, the specific ways late-night comedy shifted from broad entertainment to politically targeted commentary, to how independent media networks leveraged this era to build massive loyal audiences away from traditional platforms. So what do you think about that part? With how commenters on all political sides believe their point of view is correct, and how this shift from entertainment being something that you watch late at night to, people have to have an opinion on it politically, Like, what do you think about that?
What does that have to do with anything?
With Trump?
What does politics have to do with...
Because people see through
politics have to do through... What does politics have to do with today's entertainment? Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
No, it's because what I was researching with this is how people were looking at their favorite shows or favorite movies and how they see that, it's benefiting a certain political angle, right? Politically targeted commentary, right? That it's got assumptions. The movie or show that you're watching from late night, whatever, has assumptions that, you agree with us on a secret level that you are left-wing or right-wing, and that's why you enjoy the movie or show. And that's where I want to push back a little bit when I say that you can enjoy a movie or show regardless of its politics, right? Even if it's right-wing, you can still like the movie because it's well-made.
Well, because I don't really care about... Also, I don't really care... I don't even... Like... All I'm saying is that... All I'm saying is that the right is not always right. They're just making an embarrassment out of themselves, and they're brainwashed by whoever's president right now into believing these sorts of lies. And also, what does political ideologies have to do with the substance of what's actually in these movies? It's not bad writing. It's not just bad It's not just bad writing. It's not just bad acting. You're not even seeing what's actually good in any of these, entertainment forms of, you know what I mean? Like what's the big deal here? It's not. These people are just so negative. Like they don't. Like if anything, they're accusing the entertainment industry of doing something that they didn't actually do. And even worse, in many cases, they're actually doing very bad. Well, you see, like these people that are obviously right-wing, they're actually doing bad things and blaming the entertainment industry for it. And really, they're not doing anything ideologically or politically at all.
So,
I think opinions, particularly the negative ones, should not be political.
So here's what I want to say about this, right? Like, I do believe that many films that came out in the last 10 or 15 years did push an agenda, but it was primarily for trends. It was primarily to reflect on what was society thinking at this point. What was society thinking culturally or politically? I don't think the movie is trying to tell you what to think or what to say or what to believe in.
Yeah, but also, movies have always been the same since they were invented. But people have just
take that and believe, that reflects something about me. It's something I have to take action that shows the movie's trying to persuade me to some level. So it's either the movie is just using that to reflect what was popular at the time, but now it's not as popular now, or people are projecting onto it because it affirms what they already believe in, or it goes against what they already believe in. Let me go back to the Star Wars example with how Rey was seen as an all-powerful female character, right? And that was more of a case of how they were trying to give female characters more leverage in terms of their on-screen roles, but at the same time, the
Leia
writing was what really was the problem, not the politics, right?
Yeah, but also Princess Leia was in charge of getting herself out of danger and continued to lead the rebellion.
Yeah, because there were already female characters in the past that were already very popular, irrespective of their politics, right? Irrespective of their gender or how they looked. Because the point was that they were a great character who just happened to be a female. It wasn't that because they're a female, this is trying to say something about the female perspective or what it means for characters who are women to be, powerful and all that stuff. Because what the stories were trying to show was that women can kick ass too, right? Women can also be compelling and flawed and human just like the male characters. Because for a long time, it was always male characters.
And it's not lazy writing and it's not lazy acting. It's just how the movie industry normally does things. And besides, Star Wars was not Shakespeare. Fiction is not sacred. It's not some sacred artifact of text that's being defaced.
Yeah, and what I wanted to say about
childhood
this
is everything you've ever loved from your childhood. It's all just fiction. You don't even know what it really was. It was just a fragment of your imagination. George Lucas created this, and many others created this universe as a tribute to what they watched when they were kids. And this is that kind of stuff that kids today watch, kind of like how it was. Like, face it, it's because of that. And you're just, and I feel like these people, I'm afraid that they're just upset because they failed to grasp the fact that they have just grown up. And if you don't realize that you're not a kid anymore and you're actually an adult, then I'm sorry for you. And don't say that Walt Disney quote of "if you only aim for the kids, then you're dead," and that adults are just kids grown up, because that is not a valid.
and I do want to counter this.
But let me explain this. You may think that, but if you only aim for adults, you're alienating half the population too. Like if you sure, if you aim for the kids, it may be bad, but if you aim for adults only, it's depressing even more, you know? That's why everyone has to be taken into account. That's why movies that I think there's just much bad things for adults as there are for kids. You know?
Yeah, and I wanted to say too that because every movie and show is told from a particular lens, you cannot please everybody. You cannot make a movie for everybody because it would bog the movie down trying to fill in unimaginable expectations. But you also cannot be too specific because you are going to alienate people who are not of that subculture, not of that demographic. You know, you got to make a movie that's just appealing enough to a broader demographic, but also knowing who your audience is, because at the end of the day, you still have to make a movie for a certain audience. You just have to market it correctly and make sure that it fulfills that role to appeal to that audience, right? Because people are going to watch different things, right? Not everybody's going to watch the same thing, especially nowadays where the media landscape is so fragmented now. You have film, you have YouTube, you have podcasts, you have shows, you have Netflix, you have streaming, you have indie movies, you have what else? You have video games. You have so much different options now, more than in the past, where people are going to watch and consume different things, right? So it's really a case of where you got to know who are you making it for, but also if you want to add politics in it, if you want to channel politics in it, make sure that it's more embedded in the story.
Yeah, but
not something that dictates how people should behave, how people should believe.
Yeah, but the reality is the audience doesn't know what it wants, and therefore you shouldn't make movies just. You shouldn't think that audience. Therefore, it's better not to respect the established fans just because they're the fans, or because they're the first fans you have. It's just, or this whole traditional stuff. You can't do that. Embracing tradition does not always make a good movie or anything like that. The audience is just. Like the fans, per se, they're not the boss of Hollywood. They're not the guardians of cinema. They're just... They can't control how the world works or how movies work just because they have an opinion of something. And all I'm saying is Hollywood should be a free industry. They should be free to make whatever they want.
It should be more. It should be more accessible to people who want to be filmmakers and editors and actors, because the movie industry is currently very inaccessible. Like, to get in there, you have to have networking. You have to have certain privileges. Let's just say, and you do need, agents and a little bit of a portfolio. Let's say, to show that you are capable of making films. You are capable of making media and movies, and you understand the basics of how filmmaking works, right?
Yeah,
both of us do. We do know.
Yeah, and
the other thing too is that I don't think it's based on things like luck or fate or or good riddance for people to get in there. It is about navigating how the system works that shows you could get in there, you could not get in there. The outcome really depends on how things turn out. There is a little bit of chance that plays into this, but at the end of the day, it's something that I feel the process doesn't need to be overly complicated, because we know that the industry seems like it's protecting itself too much from outsiders trying to get in. But
they shouldn't be picking the wrong outsiders.
But that gatekeeping aspect is starting to break down because YouTube democratized storytelling, right? Almost anyone now can be a filmmaker, because the tools to make movies is now more accessible now than ever. It's just that the film industry itself still hasn't opened its doors yet, because it's still trying to appeal to people that already have connections, right?
And I'm already trying to get in there myself right now, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, it's a lengthy process, man. It's like, but you got to be patient with it, right? Because we know how it works. We know that it's a system that shows we need to have the right elements, right? We need to have, the documents and the paperwork and the agents and the networking and just the right amount of timing to get in there, because it's not magic. It's people who get into Hollywood didn't magically get in there. They knew how the process worked, and they already had advantages. But that doesn't mean it looks the same for everybody, because people get into Hollywood for different reasons. People get into the film industry for different reasons. Some people want to be actors, some people want to be celebrities, some people want to be directors, some want to be editors, some want to be sound designers, some want to be cinematographers, some want to be producers, some want to drive the machinery, some just want to tell good stories, and some are trying to, make the behind the scenes and the everything you see on screen work to show that people are drawn to the art and business of filmmaking. And that's something that should be more accessible now, especially since the barriers have broken down on so many levels now, to the point where we don't live in the 50s anymore. We don't live in the 60s anymore. We live in a different time. We live in the 21st century, and people of all backgrounds can make stories that they want. And that accessibility, once the movie is out, once the product is out, shows that, oh wow, we are engaging with the art that someone made. And even though it's not our story, it's still a story that we love because it reflects something about us back, right?
Yeah.
We can appreciate that the storytelling and the art comes together with the machinery and the business of how movies work. That shows that the movie being made really is a reflection of us. It's really a reflection of how we lived through a particular time in history. And that's why we love it, because it preserves the medium of what it means to be human during a time that we live in, right? And we're using the storytelling elements to channel that. And I've put it right here in the notes, and I said it here in the car, but film and art really is a way to channel society using the formats available, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's Hollywood, whether it's CGI, whether it's editing, whether it's directing, whether it's producing, whether it's mise-en-scene or whatever it is, Hollywood really is trying to channel society through art and film, but according to its own means, according to its own incentives. Whereas we're trying to do the same thing too. We're trying to channel our life experiences through film and art, but according to our means, according to what we have, according to the resources that we have already.
Yeah.
And this weirdly ties back to what we were talking about with how Donald Trump is, a controversial political leader and media personality, because he's also a media personality and he is a businessman too. That shows that he's trying to channel the frustrations of millions of Americans who feel like they were left behind.
Well, that's not how you do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying is that Donald Trump is trying to channel the grievances of millions into his rhetoric and through his speeches and through his body language.
Well, that kind of rhetoric is not realistic.
Whether you like what he's saying or not. Like I said, you're free to dislike the things he's saying. I'm free to dislike or like some of the things he does to show that I get it. I understand how this works. And that's why people are so mad about everything nowadays. And that's why they politicize everything, which they don't have to, right? Politics is one aspect of life. It's not the whole thing about life, right? Because politics isn't just about voting for a politician or election day or wearing slogans and flags. Politics is really about how do we organize society? What is the right way to organize society with the tools and resources and the methodologies of how human society works, right? The thing is that when people identify so strongly with their political party, like a sports team, it's because they want their version of society to come true in a way that they think is best fitted, instead of learning just how to live with the tension of knowing their side is not wrong, it's just incomplete. It's just not the whole truth, not the whole version. And this applies to both people on the left and right who believe their version of society is the right one, but they ignore that both of their approaches are flawed, because at the end of the day, both sides are flawed humans who are trying to navigate a changing world, in a society that is always on the edge, right? Always on the edge between what is innovative, what is game-changing, but also what is consistent throughout time, right? These are things that politics really, especially here in this country, is really about, right? Trying to make the best of this country, but with how things have changed, how things have evolved, and what we consider to be stable aspects about American society, right?
Welcome back.
Yes, we're going to continue with the podcast that we were just doing. So I think we're now done talking about how Trump, media, and politics all connects, right?
Yeah.
It was a very lengthy discussion that we had. I'd love to talk more about it.
Maybe in the next one, we don't know.
Getting sick of it because he's tired of seeing connections everywhere. I'm also a little bit tired of it too. I think at the end of the day, it's just a case of where we just have to accept things for what they are and not try to look too deeply into it. It is okay to make connections. It is okay to, be pattern seeking and interpret things through a political lens, because at the end of the day, we know that film is a part of society, and it is a way for people to channel their influences into film. But film is not reducible to just politics, right?
Yes.
Politics is just one aspect of what makes a movie.
Yeah.
And what makes art meaningful.
Yeah, and it's not anyone else's childhoods.
Yeah. So with that out of the way, we want to talk about the next section, which is much more tragic, because the month of July saw the deaths of so many well-known people and celebrities that have made an impact on many people's lives, including my own, including Ben's life. Assume.
Yeah, one I hold close to my heart is from, I don't know if you remember that movie, The Ring. There was a girl in it. She's the voice of Lilo from Lilo and Stitch. And she died after having such a private life as an adult that was very troubled, and she died at the age of 35 or 36. And
oh man.
And she
so
had,
still young, relatively speaking.
Yeah, like she had some sort of meningitis or some type of disease that was very. It's sad. And a lot of the people involved in Lilo and Stitch came to her funeral, as did many of her collaborators on other projects to remember their fallen sister, I guess you could say. And their fallen friend as well, She is our Ohana. Ohana means family.
Yeah, that's great. We're not talking about her though.
Yeah, we are talking about another person who died.
Yeah, we're talking about Sam Neill.
Absolutely.
If you did not know, Sam Neill is a New Zealand actor who previously, or is most famously well known for playing Dr. Alan Grant, the fictional paleontologist in the Jurassic Park franchise.
That's how I know him.
And we're here to briefly talk about his passing and what it means for not just the Jurassic Park community, but just the film industry in general, who mourned his loss right after, because Sam Neill was known as one of those actors who was both versatile in his roles, but also well respected for being just a great down-to-earth guy who cared about what he did, right? He was very immersed into the roles he played, while also being a very just all-in-all great guy that he was known for contributing not just in film, but also conservation and organizations that really help to preserve animal life, right? If you've seen his his what you call it? If you've seen clips of him online, you know that he's not just an actor. He also
cares for the environment and the wildlife.
Yes, he cares about that.
And if anything, he I don't have much to say other than as much as we are all going to miss Sam Neill, I'm worried that that it would have an effect on future installments in the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World series.
Yeah, that's what many people have been talking about, is how will the Jurassic Park franchise go forward from
considering
here.
That, especially that the moment I saw Rebirth, I thought the franchise had outstayed its welcome, in my opinion.
Yeah, because Dominion was the entry, especially it was the last entry of the Jurassic World trilogy, where we had the old cast, where the old cast and the new cast united, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We saw Sam Neill as Alan Grant, Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm, Ellie Sattler played by Laura Dern, and then we had the newer actors from the Jurassic World trilogy that teamed up, and it was great to see that we got that conclusion of the Jurassic World trilogy, even though the franchise was really doing badly at that point.
Yeah.
In terms of quality and creative bankruptcy, and the franchise was just downhill from there because Universal can't seem to make a movie in the Jurassic Park franchise that's better than the original, and also
that one
can't
was
seem to know when to end it because
at
the end of the day we got Jurassic World Rebirth, and that was, let's just say, an unnecessary entry in the franchise that didn't need to have existed. The more I think about Rebirth, the more I just become
and even like this isn't the first time Jurassic Park franchise ended up in the wrong direction. That was Jurassic Park 3.
Oh, and I wanted to bring up the notes right here on Sam Neill, because I did write some notes. Died on July 13, 2026 at age 78 in Sydney, Australia. His agent confirmed he passed away from pneumonia after beating Symphonia, which was a cancer-free. He was cancer-free from I don't know how to say this. It's a very specific word, but yeah, he was cancer-free after battling a type of blood cancer for many years, and he passed away at St. Vincent's Private Hospital. Sam Neill built an incredible 5-decade career defined by profound artistic versatility, genuine humility, and an enduring passion for the natural world. Best known as the rugged, pragmatic paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, Neill seamlessly balanced massive Hollywood blockbusters with nuanced independent cinema. Off-screen, he was deeply adored as an authentic, warm-hearted storyteller who championed conservation and lived closely connected to the land. So this already shows us that Sam Neill was not just well-known for Jurassic Park. He was also committed to why he cared about the environment.
Yeah.
And that, generally speaking, he wasn't doing it, and he even said in interviews, he wasn't really doing it to be in the spotlight. He was doing it because he simply loved the acting and the craftsmanship of films, even though he worked within the studio system that, usually favors the spotlight, right? And it's interesting too, because when I grew up watching Jurassic Park, like I didn't really knew that I was watching a Hollywood actor. I was just watching a guy playing a fictional paleontologist whom millions of people grew up with, and made a lot of people want to be scientists or paleontologists or dinosaur enthusiasts. And the thing that's interesting too is that Steven Spielberg, the director of Jurassic Park, he was also director of Indiana Jones, right? And there was some parallels I've noticed between Sam Neill and Indiana Jones that shows that these guys are fedora-wearing men who are into the academic study of the past, whether it was archaeology for Indiana Jones or paleontology for Sam Neill, and they both have this sort of rugged, kind of pragmatic outlook that showed they really valued the discovery and the evidence and the inquiry that studied the past, right? While also showing how committed they were to caring about the people around them. Indiana Jones cared about the various people who were connected to him, whether it was friends like Marion Maronwood or his father, played by Sean Connery, Henry Jones Sr., or his alliances like, what was the name of his alliances? Marcus? Is that his name?
I don't remember. It's
from Indiana Jones. Or the guy from Cairo, Egypt. I forgot the guy's name.
I don't remember either.
The Middle Eastern guy? Yeah, I don't remember his name. that showed that he had alliances and family members who aided him too. He wasn't just doing it just for fame and glory, as he said in Temple of Doom. Indiana Jones really did care about trying to preserve the past as much as he could, while also knowing that people with their own agendas and ideologies are going to try to go after artifacts, right? And we see that parallel with Jurassic Park, where Sam Neill plays Alan Grant, and even though he can't really defeat a dinosaur because he's not doing it to, show off his action hero skills, he's doing it to try to survive as much as he can, while also understanding that some things should really just stay buried, right? That the ultimate sin that InGen committed and John Hammond and just mankind did was trying to play God, trying to resurrect ancient life. And now we just have to learn to live with that. So that's something that Sam Neill instinctively knew because he studies dinosaurs, he studies fossils. And the thing too that made his character so compelling was that he didn't want to be a father. He was against having kids, and he even intimidated kids, like the kid in the beginning of the movie where it showed that he was messing with him by showing the raptor's sickle claw and telling the kid, "Oh, you think it's like a 6-foot turkey." Remember that scene from the first?
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It scares me.
The first Jurassic Park scared you. Well, I've seen the movie dozens of times, and I know how that scene played out when they were in the Montana desert looking at the Velociraptor skeleton, and the scene where he was saying, "Oh, it's got the hips of a bird. It's got cubic bones. It's got bird legs, and the name raptor means bird of prey." And that's where he told the kid who said, "Oh, that's not very scary. It's more like a 6-foot turkey." And that's where Alan Grant was showing, try to imagine yourself during that time period when dinosaurs existed. And he showed the sickle claw, and he was scratching at him to really scare him and to really show that he needs to respect what he's talking about. It's really those scenes that sets up how Alan Grant viewed children. And then when he met Lex and Tim, who were the grandkids of John Hammond, that's where he tried to separate himself, but he knew that, these kids are in the right too because they're enthusiastic about dinosaurs. And so when that happened, when the kids were in danger, when they were attacked by the T-Rex, that's where he had to do something about it. He couldn't just let them stay out there.
And it involved like the best looking special effects of its generation when they made that movie.
Yeah, the special effects. Not talking about special effects though, I'm talking about So yeah, that's when he knew that, I'm not going to let those kids out there. And that's where over time, as we saw in the rest of the movie, he changed his view and considered the possibility that, he might have a kid one day. He might have children of his own, even though he was with Ellie Sattler. And if you look closely, the age gap is noticeable because she's like in her 20s, he's like in his mid to late 30s maybe, but he's he's open to the possibility. That's how the first movie ended, right? When he took on the role of the father figure briefly for Lex and Tim right there, and then told John Hammond that after consideration he's not endorsing the part because he saw how dangerous it was to let dinosaurs just out and about like that. Yeah. And so when we get to Jurassic Park 3, where Alan Grant is more cynical, he's more just trying to get the things done, it shows a shift where, wait a minute, he was not with Ellie anymore. Ellie had children with someone else. It just undoes that character arc. And Alan Grant is more... I feel like
the guy who wrote it was just not doing a good job because Michael Crichton didn't write any source material for it after The Lost World.
Yeah, and he didn't appear in The Lost World Jurassic Park, which is something that they wrote in Jurassic Park 3 when he said his
I feel like they were just trying to please the fans who were disappointed with the second one, and they risked pleasing nobody.
So the third movie, in the third film, he mentioned to the crowd at the convention, we was talking about the raptors, the vocalization. He mentioned that I was not present to see the second islands incident at San Diego, or he was not present to have seen the San Diego incident, which is like meta referencing the fact that Sam Neill didn't appear in the Lost World Jurassic Park. But in the third movie, he meets up with another kid, Eric, who survived in Isla Sorna for 8 weeks because his parents, played by William H. Macy and Taleone, were con artists who got Alan Grant back to the island, where they were lying to him about, we're a rich couple who love vacationing, and as it turns out, no, they're actually just trying to get their son back, and they're not like the greatest couple, right? If you remember from Jurassic Park 3, I know it's been a while because that movie's 25 years old, and it's been a while since I've seen the movie also, but they brought Alan Grant to the second island, which he's never been to, and that's where he tries to get them out of it. And the movie just, because of how the movie was made, and because it didn't stuck to a plan, because of how...
None of them stuck to a plan.
Because of how clumsily put together Jurassic Park 3 was, Alan just kind of like rolled with it and just had to like accept, oh, I need to get these people out of the island. But there wasn't really much of a deeper reason why. It was just he was reluctant in coming back to it. But it already shows that even when that happens, Sam Neill didn't break character. He didn't break he didn't. No, I wouldn't say he didn't break character. He didn't like completely like felt checked out of it. Right? He still stayed committed to the role.
Yeah.
So I wrote this for Alan Grant, the character that he played. Neill consciously played Grant as an ordinary bloke doing the best he can, avoiding superhero tropes to ground the film's high concept sci-fi and human reality. His physicality, his physically staggering, awestruck delivery and the iconic Brachiosaurus scenes established the emotional stakes and cinematic majesty of the entire franchise. Though Grant famously disliked messy children, Steven Spielberg noted it was a massive acting stretch for Neill, who was actually a deeply devoted and loving father in real life. He reprised his beloved role across generations, anchoring Jurassic Park 3 and reuniting the legacy cast in Jurassic World Dominion. So this shows that it's very different than how he was in real life, because in real life he was already a dad. He was already he was very loving and devoted to his children. But it's interesting how he can play a non-parent in a movie that showed his cynicism towards having children, and then he continued that just in a different way when he said, "Oh yeah, I didn't want to be back on the island."
I hear he struggled with his accent the first time he was doing the first movie. Like he's
trying to play American character,
an American, or at least a guy who was residing in America. But after like the first take, they kind of decided to just let him use his own accent because he had a hard time trying to stick to an American accent. I think he kind of handles it better than Kevin Costner, I would say.
Who broke his British accent.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny how a British actor can accidentally slip their British accent.
Yeah.
When doing a movie.
When Americans have a hard time with that.
Americans have a hard time with duplicating a British accent. Even though half of...
I mean, I know Drew Barrymore, on occasion... Drew Barrymore did this movie Ever After, which is, was based on Cinderella. She kind of struggled with her accent in some scenes, even because she's an American and she's playing, a French princess and with a British accent. Yeah,
it's interesting because half of white Americans have British ancestry.
Yeah.
And they forgot their British accent over time.
Yeah.
Over the generations. But Sam Neill, he's from New Zealand, so he carries a New Zealand Welsh accent, I think.
Yeah, I mean Sam Worthington.
I couldn't catch it in the Jurassic Park films when I was watching them. Maybe in some scenes, I could hear maybe a little bit of it, but I couldn't tell.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's always this trope: fake nationality, fake American, whatever.
Fake American. There are no true Americans. Plot twist. Okay, so I want to get to this part right here. Yes, and he was. I want to touch on Dominion in just a moment, but I want to read across this next section that I wrote. Okay, filmmaking range. Beyond blockbusters, Neill was a prolific chameleon across genres. For example, in the art house and drama films, he delivered a powerful performance as the stern, complex husband in the Oscar-winning period drama The Piano. In the horror and thriller genres, he cemented cult status in intense psychological thrillers like Possession, Dead Calm, and In the Mouth of Madness, John Carpenter movie, as well as The Omen, The Final Conflict, which was part of the Omen franchise. He plays the Antichrist in that series, Damien Thorne. Television comedy captured modern audiences as DCI Chester Campbell and Peaky Blinders showcased his humor in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, he was a fake Odin in that one.
That should have been some other guy.
The 2016 coming of age adventure movie in the Build-A-West people. I forgot the name of that. It's also by Taika Waititi. I forgot the name.
Jojo Rabbit?
No, it's the Bewilder People. I think that's what it's called. I don't remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, and the recently starred in the limited series Apples Never Fall. Okay. Real life nature and wildlife. The idyllic farmer Neill famously shielded away from the Hollywood spotlight. He dedicated much of his life to his organic New Zealand vineyard, to paddocks located in central Otago. Animal companions, which he delivered millions of fans online with charming, humorous updates about his farm animals, often naming his pigs, crows, and chickens after famous co-stars like Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum. And he consistently uses platforms to champion conservation advocacy when it comes to things like environmental sustainability, local New Zealand conservation efforts, and climate awareness. So yeah, that's the thing that I think is really interesting to really think about, because whether consciously or unconsciously, it's almost like his Jurassic Park films was channeling some sort of advocacy when it comes to bringing awareness about not only our place in nature, but also understanding that the chain of events that we've set up, are leading to things like environmental destruction or climate catastrophe, which is coming up in front of us. And that's why people like him really did care. He really did care about looking after animals and really, showcasing that he wasn't performing this. Like, he actually cared. He was really into that conservationism that he wanted to promote, but not in the way that was self-promoting, if that makes sense, because his film career was one thing, and then his passion for animals was another thing. And that's interesting how it makes me respect how people in real life can balance those two things well. And that's something that really shows that film was like a platform for that, even though it was very separate from what he did as in his farm life, in the farm like areas right there.
Yeah.
In Jurassic Park, I feel like it was a unconscious attempt at that, because he was a paleontologist and he was basically telling people or showing people that studying prehistory and studying life on Earth matters, because it helps show that humankind is part of nature. Humankind is part of this continued process of evolution that shows that, we matter to this planet just as much as the planet will, outlive us at some point. And that's something to really look in. It's something to really, what's the way to put it? To really care about.
Yes.
That stewardship role that we have on Earth, and that's something that he was very, very passionate about, and something to really respect, because it shows that he wasn't just doing it for fame. He, most Hollywood actors at the end of the day are just doing it to be famous. He was doing it because he loved to do it. He loved to be on camera, to play different characters, to show like how wide his range was. Because again, most people associate him as Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, but he played a lot of roles too. And I have seen some of his other film roles that is very impressive. Like I have not seen every movie that he's been, but it makes me want to see the rest of his filmography. That shows, oh wow, this guy really is a good actor. He really created a long career in film that shows he was very committed.
Yeah. And the next.
This part right here. Yeah, this next part, which is the last part. Cultural impact and fan legacy. So this inspired Sam Neill's positive, passionate portrayal of Dr. Alan Grant. Inspired real scientists, fundamentally reshaping public interest in paleontology, directing, inspiring an entire generation of real-world scientists and researchers. Following his 1993 performance, institutions like the Dinosaur National Monument saw immediate surges in attendance, cementing a permanent footprint on ecotourism and education, which is how museums and park booms surged up following the release of Jurassic Park, the original movie. His collaborative spirit left an indomitable mark on his peers. Upon his passing, Steven Spielberg and his co-stars remembered him not just as a titan of film, but as the unbreakable heart of their cinematic family, which he calls the Jurassic family, as a way to show that he had a great collaborative relationship with Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, because it really showed that an actor like that can really impact people in a way that's like beyond a person's reach, right? That shows that an actor can really start a movie that really can make you pursue an interest like paleontology, or an interest like film or media, or an interest like science, or an interest like like conservationism, whatever it is. And we've talked earlier about how politics sometimes can be used in film media to divide people. Well, sometimes it can be used to inspire people to take action in real life in some way, to pursue a profession or a career or a topic that they want to really express, right? Especially in the real world. You know how films absolutely do influence movements, whether politically or culturally or technologically, that makes people want to be active in their pursuits, right? Channeling that in whatever form that they can, right? And film being one of them. And what I think about Sam Neill, like, because I was born in the year 2000, right? I was born just 7 months before Jurassic Park 3. It was kind of late for me to really process all of it because I saw him as Alan Grant, and that's where I couldn't get the time to really check out all of his movies. You know, I saw the guy, you know, Sam Neill as Alan Grant, and yet it still made me wonder, wait a minute, what else has he been in? Has he been in anything else that's great? And when I checked it out, I was like, oh yeah, he's been in a lot of things that really shows how accomplished he is as an actor. And when I saw what he did outside of that, it's very interesting. It's very multifaceted how an actor can be, right?
Well, personally, I'm sure that it's gonna have an effect on how else they're gonna progress with the Jurassic Park franchise, which I'm worried has outstayed its welcome.
Yeah, and we could talk about how his death could impact the Jurassic Park franchise, but I just want to get to that point in a moment. The point is that,
well, I feel like it's best that we that we could consider just doing this as 3 parts or something like that.
Yeah, hold up. Is that I don't want to interrupt, but yeah, is that even not knowing everything about Sam Neill by that point, it still influenced me to pursue the topic at hand, which was either prehistory or paleontology or creating through film or cinema, and that's something to really appreciate, right? So I just want to get to the last point that you said, that yes, we miss him now. We miss Sam Neill, you know, and may he rest in peace. And it's something that I really couldn't be more thankful about. That even not knowing everything about the films that he starred in or his conservation efforts, I still really can't be more thankful that an actor could make an impact on people like us who wanted to make films from the beginning. And about the impact that his death has on the franchise, I do feel like it needs to go forward anyways, because a franchise cannot rest on the shoulders of one person. You know, Jurassic Park has had a lot of sequels, and Alan Grant, Sam Neill, was just one character in it. And then the rest of the sequels had other characters in it. You know, Owen Grady, played by Chris Pratt, he was the main protagonist in the Jurassic World trilogy, but he didn't appear in the
Rebirth.
He didn't appear in Rebirth. The animated series, if you watch any of the animated shows played by different characters of different backgrounds, really appreciated. That really shows. Yeah, I don't think Jurassic Park needs to be limited by a single character who is played by that particular actor, because it's not Indiana Jones, right? Indiana Jones is led by Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones, and now they've done 5 movies now,
and they've already ended.
Yeah, they've already ended it, and I don't think we're gonna get a 6th movie. We still
they already said it was gonna be only 5 movies from the beginning for Indiana Jones anyway.
Yeah, and plus we already have video games and comic books that could expand on that material to show that it's not just films, right? When you look at other franchises, almost anyone can lead in this franchise. I don't think it needs to rest on the shoulders of one person or one character, but still, I don't think the death does matter, right? It matters significantly because we're never going to see Sam Neill again as Alan Grant.
Yeah.
That's just something we have to accept. But it also means the franchise going forward can still honor his legacy in some way that I really can't wait to see how they do it. I just hope they don't mess it up.
Yeah, me too.
But because the franchise at this point feels like it's overstayed its welcome, it's we have to wait and see what that looks like if they are going to continue. Yeah. Because right now, Jurassic World 5 is still in development. It's still being made.
You mean like Jurassic Park 8, something like that?
Jurassic World 5 or Jurassic Park 8.
It doesn't really matter what they're going to call it right now. But you know what I mean.
Yes, and before I ended right there with Sam Neill, I just want to say that it's something that I really think we should keep an open eye on to see how will they honor his legacy going forward. So may Sam Neill rest, right? Rest in peace. May spirit rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Okay, so for the last section, we're going to talk about the short film that we're going to make and what ideas have we floating around on what do you think we could make for the next
My ideas are not the best. To be honest,
that's fine. I mean,
that's all I can say about it. I'm pretty sure he has some better ideas at this rate, but I don't.
As of right now, I don't know what short film to make because for one, we have 4 months left of the year, so we still have plenty of time to conjure up.
Yeah, but at the same time, I still want to just get my Kim Possible movie greenlit this year and stuff.
It could be 10 minutes long.
We'll see.
Yeah, I can imagine it being 10 minutes long. And you said you wanted it to take place in a bar, right?
Yeah, somewhere like that.
So how do you think we can access a location? Or do you think we're going to just make up the location using what we have?
I don't even know. We might as well just try, doing it with green screens or, see what's available in the area for filming. But we also need to think about the budget and everything else that we need to raise and stuff. It's complicated.
Yeah. I was thinking too, because we filmed a lot indoors in our places, in our homes, right? As well as outside in places like parks. It makes me wonder if we're going to progress to the next section, which is renting out a place out there somewhere in society and see if we can film a short film there, right?
Yeah, especially if we're going to shoot... Like, I always had the idea of shooting anamorphic. This time, like make it more cinematic.
Because the next logical step would be to film somewhere out there. And if we can have access to a place like a real bar or a library or a rental place and decorate it as a bar, for example, that would be a great step because it pushes the project from, we're making it with our own resources to, we're now making something that can pass off as a real cinematic short film, right? Because film, that's how we break into festivals, right? That's how we break into being accepted into that film festival circle, cultural landscape that shows, we're taking our career seriously. We're taking our filmmaking journey seriously because we want to film projects on a much bigger scale. And we want to get multiple other people to work on this to fill in what's missing because you got to remember that filmmaking is a complicated process, right? We do have to plan things out ahead of time. We do need to have a budget. We need to have crew members, right? Lighting equipment, sound technician, the green screen, if we're going to use any, the boom mic operators who are going to pick up the sounds, as well as plan the location so that way we know where to place the camera. We know where the actor's going to be. We know what's going to be on frame, what's going to be off frame. And we've done this before, right? When we were filming Fandemonium or Too Much of Me, which were filmed in real places, not here where we live, but in actual places out there where we had to place the light right there to shine on the characters. We had to place certain objects where they are so that way the characters can use them.
Yeah, but if anything, we need to take things into account. We cannot overlight.
The overlight, not use too much of the lighting because then it'll fill up the room with too much of that,
Yeah, not to spend too much money on everything because you have to refuse to spend if you want to make a movie.
And not just that too.
So little.
And not just that too. When it comes to background extras, because if you want it to be populated with people in the background, we have to film it in a way that looks convincing. We don't have to tell them, you're in a movie. Like, just convince them enough that they're acting, or that they are just doing the everyday thing, right? And we're filming the movie in front where we have the characters right there. And that's where it's done in a way that's not too distracting to the people in the back right there. And that's how we have it look very good. Because I've seen many short films that students submitted at Nova where they got permission to film at the Nova Community College, whether it was at the library or at the office centers where people were just doing their thing in the background. Yeah. And they were filming the actors coming up in the front of the camera, and that's where the background, if you notice it closely, very smooth, very well done.
Another thing to take into account is I want to make I want the budget that we have look like, I want it to look bigger, you know. I just want to make like $1 look like $100 on the movie, you know, like as if we actually had more than $100, even though we have less.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that we can make our movie look more expensive than it actually is, because we don't have $1 million, right? We don't even have $1,000, but we can still make the movie look bigger than it actually does, because we're trying to take advantage of the resources that we currently have while filming it in essentially one location. Because I think that's what we're going to do for this next short film, right? Film it in one place, one location?
Yeah. Right now, the idea that we have is still kind of being written. We just we haven't written a script yet and everything.
Who feels comfortable writing the script, you or me?
I don't know.
I mean, I could pass it. I mean, you can write very well.
I write when I'm in the mood to do it, and I usually rely on my dad, and I feel like, what if we do it together?
Yeah, we could do it together. You and me, right?
We'll see what happens. So, that's pretty much all I want to say about that.
About the potential short film idea that we could do.
Yeah.
Because the last short film we did was The Ghost Hunter. We filmed it here, and we filmed it out there in Kings Park Woods. Yeah. And I really liked it. That was one of my favorite short films to do. Even though looking back on it now, there are some things that I feel could have been done better. There were some scenes that I edited out because they didn't work in the final cut. And even then, it still needs improvement, because I'd like to turn that into a feature film project one day when I feel ready. Because if I want to make a feature film for real and film something out there, like, I really need to turn that premise into a feature film script, right? And try to work around what we have, because I really want to get something like that done, but on a length of 100 minutes at most. Because The Ghost Hunter is an idea that I really liked, because, as you know, I am into the paranormal. I'm into the supernatural or the mystery stuff that I really like.
Although I feel like my acting has come off as a bit too much of a... It just, for some reason, it was just... I feel like my acting skills are not very good.
Yeah, I mean, your acting skills don't need to be Oscar worthy.
Even if I was in a Shakespeare play in high school, like I remember way back in middle school, we had to do a Shakespeare themed play, and as you would expect from any black box theater play in any school, we had no budget to work with, and yet you still
acted.
But I
That's how it begins,
crazy about the text, doing it or whatever.
That's how it begins. It does not begin with a massive budget. It begins with someone who's reading lines from a script and acting it out to show that they really want to bring out a performance of some kind.
Yeah, but also, my performances are, I feel like everything just... I felt like...
You were being pressured, or?
Yeah, the pressure of the acting and all that. It just is... It just... I get too much pressure from acting.
Yeah, especially when you have to read the lines where you had help from Dad to help you with remember the lines. Even
to the point where I should be directing, the movies I want to make.
And keep in mind, I'm not setting out to be an actor anyways. I did take acting classes, but I didn't study acting. I want to be a director, screenwriter, and editor. That's my domains because I want to tell the stories I want to tell and edit them in the way I see fit. It's just that I play the character because there's no one else to play. I mean, and I also almost see it like a mirror where I see myself in this when I play the character and I wonder, okay, how am I channeling my experiences with this? Because when I made Fandemonium and when I made the other film, which was Missing at Lancaster's, we were really having to take advantage of what we already were exploring with the
I
premise.
kind of had to,
especially with the superhero stuff.
Yeah, I mean, plus we were not really I kind of got hurt while trying to make Missing at Lancaster's because
especially when you're wearing the suit, right?
Yeah, that costume was uncomfortable. I had poor eyesight. I had a hard time trying to figure out where I was pointing that knife thing, and I had heartburn during lunch. Like it was McDonald's lunch in the cold, freezing.
Yes, it was cold. It was December 2023, right?
Yeah.
It was very windy too.
Yeah, and plus the writers and actors strike had already ended a month before.
And that's where I look back on it now, because it's been almost 3 years, and I'm like, oh wow, I made this, and even though I actually do like how it turned, I did like how Missing at Lancaster turned out. Professor Stallings had anything but good things to say about it, because he criticized how it was done. And while I do think some of the criticisms is justified, I mean, look,
Besides, we were more serious than he was.
Yeah, I could not have pulled out the best of that version because I was running out of time.
Yeah.
I was so pressured by the deadline to turn in the short film that I made.
He should have. I told him to sort of lower his expectations.
Yeah, because he was having. Yeah, because we had to do. Oh wait, hold up. What happened? No, just check if it's still recording. Okay, yeah, it's still recording. Yeah, because when we were doing the project, and we were taking the film directing class back in the fall semester of 2023.
Yeah.
It was really frustrating to weigh in what he was expecting from us, even though I was not really in the mood. Because, for one, I have not seen the series Euphoria. The HBO series, with Zendaya.
Me neither.
I'm not against the show. I'm not against anybody who has watched it. I just was not into it because I've never seen it.
I am against Sydney Sweeney, though, because although she has nice looking cleavage, of all things, she doesn't. I don't want to. There was something she said that is out of touch with. If anything, she was part of the. She for some reason there are gooners surrounding her, and she is. They just like her just because of how she looks and who she votes for.
Political points, right?
Yeah.
And beauty points also. But anyways, yeah. The point is that with Euphoria, and keep in mind that show's also a coming of age political thriller where it's about Zendaya, the character she plays, and her role in the world. Which, okay, interesting, but I've never seen that show for one. And when we were doing the recreation scene at the Black Box Theater, I never even got credited. I told the people there, the people there just did not care at all. They were all just doing their thing. And I thought it was a collaborative thing until...
Honestly, I didn't care about doing anything for it.
And it was so frustrating because I needed to get my name credited there in order for me to win points. And when that didn't happen, it was like, okay, nobody really listened. Everybody was just doing their thing. And this concerns me because film is supposed to be collaborative, and yet nobody there really listened to each other. They were just all doing their thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that the first time I took that class, it was frustrating because I didn't knew how to drive everything forward with the Excel documents and all that stuff. But the second time I did, I was much better. I taking the class a second time this past spring semester just before I graduated, it was so much better. I knew going forward what to do. And I still remember, I still have the documents, I still have the Excel software, I still have the paperwork that needed to be done to complete the directing class. But yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot to take in because it's very administrative for one, and it gets into the process of how making films really works, because you do need that paperwork in order to get the things done, right?
Yeah.
We were doing we were doing a day, what was it called?
What? I don't know.
I forgot. Day of the day document. Day of the day shooting document. Yeah, I think that's what it was called. Where we had to write down the things that were being shot in the day, right? When it came to the costumes, when it came to the sound designs, when it came to the props, when it came to who's in it, who's available. These are things that all needed to be done in order to make sure that the day out of day reports were filled in. And that's what Stallings was looking for. He was looking for all that stuff to be signed in, so that way we got full credit. And thankfully I turned in all of it. And I did get the full credit. But it was so close, because if I had missed a single detail, if I had missed anything, I would have not gotten the full credit and I would have not passed the class. And thankfully I did. And what's funny too is that nearing the end of that semester, we had to do two different things. We had to do a commercial ad video, as well as a music video recreation. With the music video recreation, I took a stop motion route, right? And it took me so long to do that. I was like, oh God, I better get this done ASAP, because I had just done the short film. And the short film, I did it weeks in advance, so that way I can get it done out of the way. So that way I can get the full credit and make sure that everything that I did, the script, the out-of-day reports, the other documents that needed to be signed in, were all completed. And I did it all at home. It was grueling, but at the end of the day, it was worth it, because I got an 83%, believe it or not, from the short film project that I did, The Ghost Hunter. Even though there was still some criticisms, there were still things in there that didn't work, and that's fine. I mean, I was not expecting the short film to be perfect. I was just wanting it to be good. And there was complaints too about the pacing. 9 minutes is okay. A short film can be as long as it can be, as long as it's not 30 minutes, because after that it's like, oh, it's almost a quarter of the length of a feature film, right? So that's something that I took into consideration, the criticism that I had last time, and what I wanted to do this time forward was really improve my writing, improve the dialogue. Because there's a lot of dialogue that went into having the characters talking to each other when they were talking about, why are you investigating this paranormal case?
Yeah.
And why does this character believe the way he does? Why is he skeptical about this character's claim of evidence? And whether that evidence followed them home or whatever. I really wanted to improve the dialogue, because it was a way for me to help the audience be engaged with what each character was saying. And that's something that I think really matters, because I'm trying to write better screenplays, trying to write better dialogue. And that's something that, believe it or not, I had a blast writing it.
Yeah, and I think this is, a good time to end today's...
Yeah, we're about to end it. I went on that whole talk about how much...
I'm not sure if we're ever going to
process.
edit most of it, but, let's see.
We can leave some of it unfiltered and some of it edited, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's about it. I mean,
that's it for today's episode.
We went over Trump, politics, and media and how they all interconnected. We went over to reflect on Sam Neill's passing.
And legacy.
His legacy, and how his impact in both Jurassic Park and outside of that really made many of us interested in film and interested in checking out his career and what it means for the franchise going forward. And we also went over ideas floating around for the next short film project.
Yeah.
And my experiences making short films with Benjamin, and how I was tied to Nova Community College, and how I passed at the end of the day and I graduated.
Yeah, and plus I think, and I hope, to finally get my Impossible movie made by Disney as soon as possible.
Yeah, that too. So yeah, this was the second episode of the MediaMystic podcast series. I think that's how it's going to be called going forward. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about these topics? Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell notification icon so that way you don't miss
And
upload.
And whoever you are, please be adults about your political.
Yeah, and share this video if you can. And also, left and right wing people and people in the middle, please be civil in the comments down below.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Without further ado, see you next time.